Hi everybody, this is Diane. I have these two beautiful little autumn journals ready to go in my shop. I'll measure them just to make sure of the numbers. They're slightly different. This one is 4 just and 5/8 by 8, just a little over 8. And this one is 4.5 by 8 and almost a half. So they're just slightly different. They are constructed with file folders that I covered with fabric. And as I said in previous videos where I was working on these journals, I mentioned that these were inspired by Cassie from Dust to Roses, and I will leave a link to her video below. And I don't know if some of you mentioned, went to her video and watched it and mentioned that you heard of her from me, but she did watch one of my videos on these and commented on it. So hopefully she'll get to see the flip through of the journals that were inspired by her creations. I don't have names for them, so you'll just have to go by the photo. They'll be listed separately, so you can just tell by the photo which one you might want. They're both tied with some seam binding. This one is a gold color and it's vintage. And this is what the cover looks like. It's got the patchwork looking fabric. It's not real patchwork. It's just printed that way. They have wide lace sticking out. So when I wrapped the tie around it, I just, kind of folded that over and let it wrap around like that so it didn't get all crumpled up. You do it whatever way you want to. As you can see, it's collaged with bits of vintage lace and a vintage crochet, and there's a little piece of fabric there and a jeweled and sequined fabric and some pretty buttons. I think they might all be vintage. I know most of the buttons are vintage. This one might not be, but I think the rest are. And inside we have paper covering the inside cover, and then there's a pocket made from a patterned cardstock and some mushroom digitals and a little fabric leaf and the little die cuts that look like this. I have leaves and other things. They're from Eclectic Eggplants fall fussy cuts. And I think this is a digital, and I think it came from the old design shop. This is actually an antique postcard that I own, and I made a copy of it. So this is just a copy. Look at the little baby squirrels in the nest. So I just can't bear to give this one up yet. I own this one, and I've just made copies of it to use. This is a piece of vintage ephemera. You will see several pieces of vintage items in these journals. This is Los Angeles Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Corporation, and 1943. It's employees' earnings statement. I just looked for things that would go with the autumn colors. There's a page from an Edith Holden book with a goldfinch there. And I had this ephemera piece, and I just sewed it to some burlap and added a vintage doily just for a decoration. There's a little bit of collage down here. I may have done this on camera. I don't remember. This is a digital William Morris paper, and I put this tree paper with lines on it on the back and just folded the end over. That was inspired by, we've done that before, but I like the way that she just tore that to make it a pocket instead of just a straight flap pocket. And some digitals. This is printed on parchment paper, and this is, I forgot. and I stamped on the back of it. And then there's another William Morris. Didn't realize that I put them back to back like that. I think this one was supposed to go at the beginning of the signature. Supposed to be here, but I got them mixed up when I sewed them in. But that's fine. There's a piece of fabric here with fall colors. It looks like leaves printed on it. And a piece of vintage linen with some embroidery. Matches the colors. And this is authentic ephemera from 1926, sorry, 1926 from Nathan Trail. I had a whole collection of ephemera from his paperwork. This is, I didn't do anything to this card, I just tucked it in there to digital for Thanksgiving. So if you're using this in the fall and you want to move this to where you're journaling about Thanksgiving, that's just for you to put wherever you want. This is backed onto green parchment paper, and it just came out of a book. Beautiful fall Art Deco image. On this tab is a bulb pin with a pair of acorns dangling. And here's another autumn digital, and oh my goodness, I can't think of any words today. Embossed piece of rust-colored cardstock. I love this piece of ledger in this book because of the color. And this is just from a book about antiques, and this page was about chairs. Just fun. Here's a vintage card with this tiny little, I don't think it's a fairy, it doesn't have wings, so I don't know what it is, but it's a tiny little fellow sitting on this branch with some fall leaves and berries. Isn't that adorable? And I added this piece of sari fabric because of the color of it. It's gorgeous. Red, kind of an orange red, and the pretty jewels on it. It's on coffee dyed paper. There is a label from a crate of apples from Dalton, Pennsylvania. This is very old and brittle. So it's not brittle, but fragile, I should say. So be careful with it. I did reinforce the center, and I reinforced the top edge with a little bit of collage. I love this piece of old lace, and another piece from Eclectic Eggplant. Another William Morris paper here, and this wide lace, and this was wide enough that I just sewed the ends and it became a little tuck spot. And this is a vintage flower seed packet label from France. On the back of this paper I just glued a page from a children's book, a very old children's book, and you can put photos or collage on it. I added something to the top and the bottom of it. Just some scraps. This is a yellow vintage paper, and it's from Germany. It was some sort of a bill head or something. It's got little bits of wallpaper up here, and I sewed it or glued it to a piece of Yahtzee score sheet, and it forms a pocket here. I added a little mushroom card in there, and this little element. This is a vintage magazine page, and it's also German. And I reinforced that also because it is fragile. And I added this receipt. It was the envelope flap, which served as a receipt for photos, getting photos printed. And I just added this little fussy cut leaf. There's a vintage ephemera in here. It says Ideal Gauge. I don't know what it's a gauge for, but there it is. And this is a copy of a photo that I have, and I just added this is a vintage label right there, and a digital, another Thanksgiving one that you can move around if you want to. Just added fussy cut there, a little collage up here. This is one of the page numbers from the Edith Holden book. Added just some silky fabrics there, as a ruffle and a little piece of fabric there. Here's a digital. And this is just an extra piece of embroidery that I had. And I added a bulb pin, and it's got a little fox. Can't hold on to it. There it is. A little fox. And a bit of vintage lace there. And that's the center. On this page there is a bingo card. Now this is a paper, so be careful with it. It's not a card, it's a paper. And I added some washi tape to the top to help reinforce it. And this is a Tim Holtz tag. Did a little bit of collage up here with some textured wallpaper and another printable number and a stamp down here. Wallpaper. And this is from My Porch Prints. There's a set of 4 fall pocket envelope or tag pockets. I think they're called tag pockets. And they come with a lot of ephemera that you can use to embellish them and to tuck into the pockets. So I just tucked some of the things in there, including this tiny little envelope with a tiny little card. I did cut the flap, the front part down, because it was all the way up, almost all the way up, and really hard to get something out of it. So I just cut that down, and you can get that card out easily. Here's that other side of that yellow German paper. And I added this. This is a digital of a Victorian piece that I have. I glued some piano roll paper here. Unfortunately, you can, when I ran the ink over it, I rubbed some vintage photo ink over it, it shows the lines of glue. So I hope you don't mind that too much. You can collage over it, write over it. If you write over that, it'll help disguise that. And there's some cellophane, vintage cellophane tape there on the edge. Used some vintage tickets for a tuck spot, and I tucked in this vintage piece about Steamer Capital Deluxe, largest stern wheel passenger steamer on the Mississippi. I'd love to take a ride on that. And there's no date on that, but I just thought that was really fun. I get all kinds of assorted vintage ephemera at the flea markets. This is the other side of that Apple label, and it has a little bit of collage at the top to reinforce it, and I added that beautiful orange floral cigarette card. That's the back of that little card that had the little fellow sitting on the fall branch. Here's the top part of an Edith Holden page that I had torn off, and I just sewed it on there, made a little tuck spot. This is a piece of vintage ephemera from 1935. Townsend Club Certificate of Membership. Youth for work, age for leisure. This is Townsend Old Age Pension Club. And just a little digital fall image. Another piece of wide lace. And another vintage French flower seed packet label. This is a vintage apple cider label. I thought that was appropriate since apple cider is pressed in the fall. And this is one of the ephemera pieces, the fussy cuts from Eclectic Eggplant. This one has a piece of eyelet and this vintage sheer lace, and the apple cider label just wraps around. Some seam binding and lace. This is from a 1954 little date book. I just took a September page out, and has 3 different pieces of Scotch tape, vintage tape that came off of 3 things because they all look different. And here's this cute little card that has the right colors. It's got a little chipmunk down there too. And an Edith Holden page. And on the back, I made a pocket out of some wallpaper, vintage children's book page, and this digital. And this is a vintage coat room check. I just tucked this little tag in there. It's got my signature on the back. And I haven't put together any ephemera packs to go with these, but there will be some ephemera with them. I just don't know what yet. I want to finish the other one that I'm working on, and then I'll put some pieces with all of them. But this is in my shop now. By the time you see this video, I will have the ephemera packs already. And this one has a peach colored ribbon, and it has a neutral printed fabric with some lace again and some bling, and I sewed some little sequins on it instead of the buttons. Again, it has some wide lace hanging off and some charms. It has the same sort of pocket on the inside front, just different images. And this one has Musicians Protective Union price list from Binghamton, New York, 1961. So it's their union, and it gives the prices of their performances. So if you wanted them to go to a pre-game or a post-game dance, this is what they would charge. So that's kind of fun. And another image of that squirrel postcard. Another Edith Holden page. And another pocket from that embroidered piece. Here we have something for summer school. Making application for summer school. 1954. This is a digital, and this came out of a book, backed with green parchment paper. There's a tab here, fabric tab, and it has a deer with antlers, a deer's head. Hope you got to see that. I love this little pig image. I think that's from the Eclectic Eggplant. The fall fussy cuts had a page or two of squarish rectangular cards too that you could cut out. This antique book page, a book about antiques, which the book itself is vintage, but it's about antiques, and this page is about rolling pins. You'll see them better on the other side, I think. This one has a Thanksgiving card added into the signature. There's that Apple label. This is the end paper of a book. It's in German. It's the original paper. And somebody sent it to me, and I'm not sure, but I think they copy-dyed it. Either that or it's just really, really grunged up. There's just a little bit of digital William Morris paper up there. Again, we have the yellow billhead paper and the Yahtzee score sheet, and some bits of wallpaper. And this is a bus route, Frankfurt, Germantown, Philadelphia Transportation Company. It's quite beat up. Somebody carried this around in their pocket. It's got a little tear here, but it's just soft and weathered and folded and crinkled. It's great. Great little piece of ephemera. This is from a vintage magazine. I love this page. It's a needlework magazine. And I folded the page over to make a pocket here. I put a card in here for A for Autumn. And this is a page from a children's book, and it's a poem, How the Leaves Came Down. And on this page, it's just a little story called The Leaves. Perfect for an autumn journal. And right here is just a piece of the inside of a spine, a book spine that I took apart. This bulb pin has a fox on it, like the fox that's in the other book. And there's the center. Inside this pocket is a mushroom card. And another one of those pockets has the little card again. I have to, I don't think I'm done doing all the inking on these, so I'm going to trim that down a little bit and ink it and glue it shut, and you'll be able to get the card in and out of it. There's a, what do they call these? German scrap piece. And a digital. This image is in two of the autumn digital kits that I have, and this one is this vibrant color and the other one is more sepia tone for the whole thing. And they're both beautiful, they're just different. They just were colored differently by the digital art makers. Here's a piano roll paper again, and the old cellophane on the edge. Another bus route from Philadelphia Transportation Company with some old tickets here. And there's a vintage butterfly cigarette card and another page number from an Edith Holden book. I think I need to put a bulb pin here, and I have one of these trees. I'll just take them off the chain. Maybe I'll leave it on the chain and put it on like that. We'll see, but you'll get at least one of those trees on this tab. Again, it's the top of an Edith Holden page that I tore off. It's got a ticket attached to it. This little tag I made with an image from a book. And this little game card. What families have furnished presidents of the United States more than once? That's a fun little trivia. There's the rolling pins and a digital image up there. This is a vintage French flower seed label and a vintage drink label, Pick Me Up. It says non-intoxicant, a splendid tonic and restorative. And I just added that fussy cut. They look like they go perfectly together. Piece of violet with a fabric piece on it. Love that playing card. And again, the page from the 1954 date book. And these pieces of tape are actually ones that I colored with alcohol ink. So we have two books in the shop, and like I said, you'll just choose by the color. There will be separate listings, so you can just go to the one you want and make your purchase. And I am working on this one. I'm hoping to finish this one up today, so that'll be in the shop soon. I am going to be taking a vacation week. I'm not going anywhere, but I'd like to have these 3 books listed and sold before I start my vacation, which will be Monday, and so I can get them in the mail. If it doesn't work out that I have them done in time so that I can get them listed and sold and shipped before my vacation, then I will do that after my vacation. I'm sure these will be ready. I'm not sure about this one. But thank you for watching, and there will still be more videos this week, and I'll talk a little bit more about upcoming things. And I hope you'll watch, after having watched this video, that you will follow the link to my shop to check out these journals. And I will see you again very soon. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.